Not sure if you had the news on this morning, but it seems like Boston is in a position where they could give out more money to first-time homebuyers. I think this is something that was in the making, and it is called the Boston One Plus program. It is for first-time homebuyers. Now, the One Plus program is not something that is new. As a matter of fact, I've personally had clients that use this program to buy their first home, but there are going to potentially, I think, be some changes to this program. I don't think they have everything rolled out quite yet, but it looks like there's going to be up to $50,000 towards down payment assistance. So I'm going to share this article with you and just go over some of the details in regards to this. Again, first-time homebuyer program aimed at Boston gateway cities. So the way this program is going to work is that they're probably going to target certain cities, and there's going to be tight stipulations in order to qualify for said program. Let's read this article. A new mortgage program is coming to Massachusetts gateway cities that aims to address the housing crisis and assist underdeserved first-time homebuyers. So the housing crisis is a twofold thing, okay? On one hand, people can't afford to buy a house. On the other hand, people are not selling houses, all right? It's very hard, as I've said before on this channel multiple times, it's very hard to create more housing for people. It is very easy, not easy, but is substantially easier to hand out money to people. My issue with this, and I'll get into this later in the video too, my issue with this is there's already people struggling to buy a home because there is so many people struggling to buy a home. And when you introduce more money into the marketplace for home buyers, what happens is it actually creates more and more demand and not more and more supply. So again, I'm not knocking the program. I'm just stating the facts. You are giving more people money to buy a house, but there's not necessarily houses to buy. And that is essentially what the problem is. The One Plus mortgage program will be administered by the Massachusetts Housing Partnership and will offer down payment assistance and interest rate discounts to first-time homebuyers in gateway cities in Massachusetts. Hopefully they name them, as well as Boston, Framingham, and Randolph. The initial $11 million in funding is a joint effort from the Boston Foundation's Racial Wealth Gap Partnership and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Eastern Bank Foundation, and the State Street Foundation. The Boston Foundation said it's the first investment in a planned $25 million or more fundraise to address the racial wealth gap through homeownership. Fundraising for the initiative kicked off in May, said M. Lee Pelton, president and CEO of the Boston Foundation. The Boston Foundation's Racial Wealth Gap Partnership includes 40-plus businesses and entities and has its sights set on bolstering homeownership as a way to build wealth. And that is a good thing. The thing is, with these programs, I don't know if you remember, I think it was called, I did a video on this a long time ago. It was called the Mass Dreams Grant. So there is a difference between down payment assistance, and I don't know if they're going to get into this, but I will. And again, take what I say with a grain of salt because not everything is, I think, finalized here. But the difference between a grant towards down payment versus down payment assistance is usually you owe that money back in terms of down payment assistance. They will help you on the front end, then you have to pay it on the back end. One of those two ways is either like another deferred loan payment on top of what your mortgage is. Maybe they roll those two together. I don't entirely know. But the Mass Dreams Grant, which was absolutely insane, there was literally people closing homes and getting money back to close said home at the closing table. And a grant is essentially money that you are being given that you don't have to pay back. In my opinion, I think that this $50,000 is going to be come in the form of down payment assistance that is either a deferred payment in terms of a secondary loan, or if you sell your property, you would have to pay that loan back, which, again, that's just the way it works. Pelton said the foundation is also focused on lobbying to increase the supply of houses to lower demand costs. Why don't we see anything on increasing the supply, right? Like, if you increase the supply, right, then demand could keep up with the supply, which would inadvertently lower the prices of homes. Again, it does not guarantee that your closing costs are going to be lower. They will be lower if home prices are lower, right? But essentially, creating more opportunities by building more homes is a more long-term strategy, right? Giving money to people to buy a home, which again, I'm not knocking, guys. I'm just saying, giving money to people to buy a home increases competition in the marketplace. All right. It increases competition in the marketplace. And that's it. It just increases that competition, where more supply would inevitably mean there could be less demand because there's enough supply for the amount of demand, and that demand becomes met with the supply. Hope that makes sense. The idea that I had was really simple, that we would increase wealth, equity wealth, by increasing home ownership in underserved and historically marginalized communities. The foundation says that a $25 million investment in home ownership for marginalized groups now could have an impact of $162 to $170 million in equity gain over the next decade, which is good. These people may gain equity, but again, they will have to essentially pay off that loan over the course of a few years. And if they do get the full $50,000, the fact is, they may be in that home for a few years in order to gain that equity and in order to make enough equity to buy another home if they end up having to pay that off and they get the maximum amount, okay? Or really even if they get half of that, okay? The Eastern Bank Foundation sees supporting the program as a way to invest in people as well as businesses, said Nancy Huntington Stager, president and CEO of the foundation. It's a 1-2 punch as a business. All businesses need employees. We need them to be able to thrive and have a place to call home, Stager said. This is a business issue as much as it is any other. The program will offer up to $50,000 in assistance per home buyer or family, said Elliot Schmiedel. I hope I didn't butcher that name. If I did, I apologize. Director of Homeownership at the Massachusetts Housing Partnership. The One Plus program builds on other MHP has administered, he said. Its specific functions include shaving off. This is the good things about the program, by the way, guys. You get a lower interest rate, and they will assist with up to 2% of your down payment closing costs. So I don't know how somebody's going to get to that $50,000. Now, down payment and closing costs, this could be a whole separate video, but down payment and closing costs are two different things. When you buy a home, yes, you need to meet your down payment. It could be 3.5%, depending on loan type here, 3.5%, 5%, or 20% down or 25% if you're an investor. So 2% is really not that much. If you figure you have $1 million loan amount, 2% of that would be $20,000. So I don't know where they're coming up with the 25 unless they're assisting with other costs that are accrued when you're buying a home. Those other costs include stuff like proration of real estate taxes. You have to pay for your title insurance policy, other things in regards to lending like mortgage origination and stuff like that. So in layman's terms, if you're buying a house with 3.5% down, you may have an additional 3%, up to 3%, maybe a little more, maybe a little less in closing costs because there is other things beside your down payment. Most people know that, but I figured I would state it anyway. Today's housing market just requires more for first-time homebuyers. Yeah, but not more money. I mean, more money is one thing. It needs more inventory. If we had more inventory, we wouldn't be in a crisis that we're in. That is the housing crisis. Okay. I know on one hand it's home buyers, on the other hand it's home sellers, but there needs to be more inventory for people, whether it be affordable or non-affordable inventory. Like let go of some of these rules, regulations, red tape, permitting, right? Ease up on those things or provide incentives for contractors versus incentives for home buyers, because you're essentially just flooding the market with people that already can't necessarily afford to buy a home. There's people that don't need these programs. And here's the thing, guys, and you know where I'm heading with this. By helping one person, you always end up hurting another. It's really hard to balance the two. So the people that are in these markets that are here on my screen, right? These are all of the gateway cities. All right. I'm not going to read them all off, but these are all of the gateway cities here. What happens is if you have people that are already looking to buy a home in these markets that are getting outbid to some capacity, guess what? Now you're inviting more home buyers into these markets to essentially get outbid. So it creates a higher sale price on the back end. Even though they're getting help with their down payment assistance, there's just more people being funneled in to buy a home, and it creates more competition for the people that don't need these programs. And that's why I can't say I'm in a disagreement of these programs. I had people that have used these programs with great success, but again, the numbers, the reality is more home buyers equals more demand, right? More home buyers equals more demand and less inventory. So instead of giving money to more people, they should figure out effective ways, which I understand is so much harder. And I don't have the answers to these things, right? I don't have the answers, but try to create incentives for developers and builders to create more affordable housing or just housing in general, right? That's like the long game, but it would start to lower the prices. And I really think we're not in a bubble yet per se, but people are getting priced out of these markets, right? There's been people looking since 2019 that still haven't bought a house. Imagine stopping to look for a house in 2019 because things are so expensive, and then all of a sudden you enter the market in 2024 or 2025. The house you were looking at in 2019 is going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars more today than it was back then. And those are the people that got hurt the worst, right? The people that were looking, saving, doing what they needed to do. All of a sudden, COVID happened. All of a sudden, the prices went crazy, and now they can't afford to buy something. Now we're giving out even more money to people to afford a home in said communities. Again, qualifying for these things is difficult. If you need me to put you in touch with a lender, I will. But again, you can't have two positives. The positive is more people coming into the market. The negative is more people coming into the market. So we'll see what it looks like in terms of stipulations. I'll share one more thing with you, actually. Here's what the website looks like now. This was updated a couple of days ago. I do not know if this is like the finalized, how it's going to look, how it's going to be, but they have how to qualify, application process, and you don't necessarily need to go here to find a lender. If you need a very good reputable lender that is partnered with MHP and partnered with these programs, please reach out to me. I will help you with that. But they go on to say the first-time homebuyer program provides income-eligible homebuyers in Boston with financial assistance. For qualified households, the grant amount is 5%. Okay, so this one says 5% of the purchase price. The previous one said 2%. So there's a little bit of a difference between the two. This may be the more updated version of this. Again, I don't think it's 100% finalized. I reached out to a lender partner of mine this morning. She doesn't have any concrete information, but it says a maximum of $50,000 for those with income less than 100% of the AMI, maximum of $35,000 those with an income of between 101 and 135% of the AMI. So again, it's going to depend on what your income is in comparison to the median income of an area. Plus closing okay, here we go. Plus closing costs if applicable. Again, closing costs could be 2, 3, 4%, right? Once you figure everything in on top of your down payment. So if they include that, I could understand how you could get to that $50,000 max, if that makes sense. And then it says, please use this button to register. This is how you there's a couple different things. Here's some ideas of how to qualify. Again, this could be outdated information, but this website was updated 4 days ago, give or take. It says to qualify for our programs, you need to plan to buy a 1 to 3 family residential property or condominium in Boston. The home must be your primary residence. So investors can't use these programs, right? They're excluded from this. But I do have people right now that are looking to be a primary occupant of a multifamily home. That way, the second and third or just the second income could offset their mortgage because they have a tenant, right? Be a first-time home buyer. You haven't owned a property in the last 3 years. Graduate from our Home Buying 101 class. Get a first mortgage pre-approval from one of our partnering mortgage lenders. I also have these lenders. Mortgage loan must adhere to Fannie Mae general loan limits. Have a household income less than 135% of the AMI and have assets less than $100,000. And then it goes into the application process where you got to read, you got to register for the home buying course. They're going to review the application, so on and so forth. So again, I don't know if that website is completely updated, and I don't have any how could I say? I don't have a chart breaking down certain things and stuff like that yet. I'm sure they may post something like that in the future. Overall, it's a good and a bad thing, as I said earlier in the video. So if anybody's interested in this program, they want to talk to me about it, they're looking for a reputable lender, maybe they want to take use of this down payment assistance, right now would be a good time. Just remember, you are entering into marketplaces that may be saturated with more buyers. You're going to be competing with buyers that are already in those marketplaces, and now you're also going to be competing with other people that are applying and gaining access to this program. Okay? Hope that makes sense. All right, guys. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.